Welcome to Chaos Cortec. Hey guys, welcome back. So the results for the survey are in, and let's take a look at them. Drum roll, please. Looks like we have a total of 47 votes, and Wally came out on the top with 16 votes. And BB-8 came in second with a total of 15 votes. That's less than a 2% difference, so that's pretty crazy. It looks like GLaDOS from Portal 2 was next. Then the RC car, quadcopter, and then all the way down at the bottom was the Destiny Ghost, getting no love down there. Okay, so it's official. My next 3D printing project will be Wall-E. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. Since the results were so close, I think I'm going to attempt to do BB-8 as well. Why? Because I'm an idiot and like to make things hard for myself. Also, I'm pretty sure I have a mild case of ADD, and having multiple projects will help with that. So Wall-E will be my main project, and I will see him through to completion. By the end of this, hopefully just in a month or two, you will have a completed 3D printed Wall-E that has electronics and is fully functioning. With BB-8, since it is quite a bit more complicated of a design, and just the physics of it are a lot more complicated than what Wall-E would be, I'm going to list him under an experimental build. So I'm going to try my best to get him working, but who knows with stuff like that. I've done a little bit of research on him, so we'll see how my ideas play out there. But so BB-8 will be experimental, and there's no guarantee that that one will be completed working. But I'm going to try my best. So let's take a look at my ideas for these so far. I'll just draw them up for you. Alright, so we've got our trusty note cards here, and we'll start with Wall-E. Okay, so first things first, his movement. Now he is basically just a box with some treads on the side, kind of like this. And then he's got a head, kind of like that. And then he's got some arms. Okay, so this is basically what he looks like, sort of. Pardon my terrible drawing. But his legs are kind of in a triangle, rounded triangle shape. It looks like he's got one big wheel back here and a couple of other wheels in between, but it looks like this one right here is the drive wheel. So I'm going to basically attach that to some stepper motors, and I've already found some quite a bit stronger stepper motors that I know will be able to move him. So I'll hook those up, one for each leg, and that should turn this, and then I'm going to print some treads that will allow him to move a little bit more easily. And then I'd like his head to be able to move, and from the side, his head, like here's the top of his body, and then his head is kind of like this, and there's a circle thing here, and then his actual head's kind of like that. And so I think what I'm going to do is put a servo here that will allow his head to rotate left and right. And then also his eyes, I think I'm going to screw this up kind of bad, but there's something kind of like this. But his eyes are something kind of like that. And they actually have motion, like they're focusing, kind of like a camera does. So I'd like to give him that motion too. So I'm thinking of putting another servo in his head that will control his eye movement. And then there's be one to control both eyes. And then his arms are kind of unique. I don't think I'm going to do anything fancy for his arms, just because they don't really add a lot of aesthetic to him unless they're fully functional and like he can articulate them completely, which would require a lot of motors, and these motors are actually pretty expensive, so I don't want to break the bank with this either. So first of all, his arms kind of move in an L shape. Like they can move front to back like this, but they can also move up and down. and he is facing this way. So his arms actually slide along those tracks, and so that would require two motors. You could probably find some fancy way of doing it with one motor. Either way, that's one for each side, and then his arms also have some extension to them. Like they can extend a little bit further. And so that would require an actuator or some sort of motor in there as well. And then he has three separate fingers, which you could probably reduce those to, a wrist sort of movement with a servo or two. But I think that's a little more than we need to do to make this a functional and fun WALL-E robot. So I think I'm going to stick with the head movement, the eye movement, his wheels turning, and then I think I'm going to make his front hatch here actually drop and expose the electronics inside. So that way, one, it's easy to access while we're doing things, and two, it will, it's kind of a cool thing to show off to people. And then I think we'll stick with Bluetooth to control him. And I think I'll actually try to create a phone app this time to, a custom phone app to control him. But we'll see how that goes. I think that's what we'll start with for WALL-E. But we'll see how it evolves down the road. And I'll post an update on him every couple of weeks, letting you guys know where I'm at, and so you can kind of see how far along he is. Okay, another note card. Let's do BB-8 this time. Okay, so BB-8, his the design of him is going to be a lot easier as far as like 3D printing goes, because he's just a sphere with a little head on top. That's really all there is, and then there's some design work on him. But all of that is relatively simple. So that's not the hard part. I think I'm going to create him in two halves and just print it like that and have some sort of way of attaching them and probably detaching them so you can get access to the electronics inside. And then for the actual innards of him, this is where it gets a little complicated. So I've looked up a few different things on how other people control BB-8 and like how some toys do it, how the real thing was probably done, and things like that. I don't think I want to go as complicated as putting a mechanical gyroscope in him. Well, I think that would probably be the most stable solution. I don't know that it would be very easy to do on the scale that I'm thinking, because I don't want him to be too big. So what I'm thinking is so his insides will be like this sphere here, and what I'm thinking is some sort of motor here, and I haven't decided on the motor for this yet because I want him to have a decent amount of speed, but obviously I'm going to need to control him somehow. So I think what I'm going to do is have this motor attached to some sort of drive wheel here that basically rests on the outer shell, because these electronics are going to need to move completely free of the outer shell, which kind of poses some problems. And I'll actually probably need two motors here to allow him to turn in different directions. So another motor here with another drive wheel, because it's sort of the same thing as WALL-E, like that tank type movement. I think is how I want to do it, so he can turn left and right. So that should allow the electronics to move freely from the ball. But in this type of situation, the electronics would just spin around and the ball would probably not move. And so that's a problem. So what I think I'm going to do is add a counterbalance weight down here. So imagine it's like this. Like this is the motor, and then here is the weight down at the bottom, and the sphere is like this. So obviously the majority of the weight is in this bottom section here. So what's the ball going to want to do? It's going to want to put that weight down at the bottom. And if the electronics are holding that in position, the only thing that's left to move is the ball itself. So the ball should do that. And that should give us our forward and backwards motion, because obviously we'd be able to put it behind us as well. And it'll just take some fine tuning and calibration to get that working, hopefully. And then on top of that, we're going to need some sort of magnetic attachment here that will allow the head to clip on and stay on. We'll see how this goes. And ideally, I'd like to be able to move the head side to side and front to back like he's actually able to do in the movie, but I don't know how realistic that is, or given how complicated this intersection is going to be. So I will try to design that in there, but no promises. And this is probably gonna have to be probably a pretty big ball to get this in there. So it might be like up to 8 inches across. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I still have to figure out what motors I'm using and then how much room they're gonna take. It's gonna take a lot of designing, and then once I figure out the size, then I can start working from there. So these are kind of, oh, and I was also going to put a speaker in him and a speaker in Wally as well. So hopefully they'll be able to make some noises. All right, so those are my designs at a high level. My next step is figuring out what motors I need to use, finding all the electronics, and then ordering that. And then I will find some reference images and figure out what size they're going to need to be. Then from there, I'll just start modeling, and then we'll just keep building from there. So expect to see an update in the next few weeks. I'll try to post to Twitter more often, giving quick updates rather than posting a whole video. So if you'd like more updates on any of this, follow me on Twitter. There's a link down in the description. Okay, guys, well, I think I'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps me out a lot. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at ChaosCoreTech. And once you've done all that, check out some of these other videos I've made. Thanks for watching, guys.